Today we have a fantastic topic to discuss. This topic is so much relevant in this particular times, mastering ERP implementation, because many people fail in their ERP implementation, especially when the implementation part comes in. So to preach ERP, people can advise you ERP solutions, people can advise you multiple strategies for ERP, but when it comes to the implementation part, you have to actually see what is customizable and um, responsible or maybe kind of applicable to your business environment. So exactly this is the topic what we are going to talk on, and we have great subject matter expert on this particular subject, and we would be able to understand in depth how to master the ERP implementation and hear some of the success stories from the guest as well. Before going to the podcast directly, I would like to ask the guests, Jason and Bashir, to introduce themselves. We will start with Jason, and then we'll slowly move on to Bashir as well.
So basically, I've been in the media industry for a good 15, 20 years, specifically in the area of supply chain and logistics. And I've been a certified internet webmaster, if whatever you understand of that.
Wonderful.
But IT has always been a passion for me, you see.
Hmm.
And to understand ERP, to understand all these acronyms took me a long time. But when I quickly realized the benefits that they have to it, you see, the best way to you learn about acronyms are, through examples. So I really enjoyed that, and that has been my learning even till today.
Amazing. Bashir, Sintesi, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. So I spent many years, not to say decades, in the supply chain and logistics sectors. Back in Canada, Montreal, I spent a number of years with one of the leading railroads and logistics suppliers, CN, Canadian National, before moving back to Morocco, Casablanca, where I joined the port of Tangier Med at the very beginning of the great journey of the new port. Um, so and then we launched. I decided to build the experience and combine the experience with my passion for IT solutions and the digitalization drive, which has been impacting everyone in business. And so, now with Atracio, we're trying to give people, the benefit of that experience in terms of, their ERP needs, or it can be a more niche specific needs on their ERP implementation.
Yeah. So great to know that you are a supply chain. Can I call you a geek or or a strategist?
I think that's too big a word for me, but I leave the choice for you.
Amazing. So you very well know that ERP is the core of the supply chain. It's the heartbeat. It is the regulator factor which controls almost all the functions under the supply chain environment or the supply chain umbrella, maybe it warehousing, inventory, logistics, procurement. And if the companies fail to adopt to a latest, I would say the right technology, not the latest technology, but the right technology in their organizations, depending on their budgets and depending on their scalability factors, I think then it becomes challenging for the company. So today we are going to speak about Atracio. We are going to speak about the best practices of ERP implementation, and also we are going to focus on some of the key success stories which Bashir would want to share with us. Let's start with the best practices itself in the industry. So Bashir, as you have been across different multiple implementation projects, would you like to share some of the key basic best practices which you observe in basic ERP implementation drive?
Yeah. Well, there are two ways of approaching any ERP. There's, the big bang approach or the gradual, phased implementation, if you want. And I think experience has proven over and over again that there's nothing better than an agile approach. You start small and you grow with time because ERP ERPs, they go across the board. All the different silos of your corporate structure can be handled by an ERP. It goes from the physical movement, the warehouse and logistics, supply chain, to the accountant, to the finance, to the HR, to the marketing, you name it. So the idea here is to have a clear vision of what's your your end target. Where do you want to be at the end of the journey? And then start small. And by starting small, it may be focusing on the core modules. It can be 2, 3, 4 modules that will be the only thing you will start with before expanding over time. So in the case of Atracio, it's the focus is supply chain execution, because over time, the ERPs, they used to be this big, humongous investment, IT programs housed on-premise servers, but those are gone now. ERPs now are by default or mostly cloud-based, which make data accessible wherever you are. They are much more, we have even some open source versions, so they are more accessible, and they are now widespread use. And this has led to the, to the birth of, if you want, specialized ERPs. So if you have an ERP with a focus on a specific industry, it can be pharmaceutical, it can be manufacturing of any given sector. In the case of Atracio, the focus in the supply chain execution, right? So, and this again, so this has allowed us to help customers with the transition, again, with the phased-in approach, which is the right one to do. So having the core module, having a great understanding, you master it before you move on. And when we talk about your strategy, I think people oftentimes they overlook and they lose sight on the most critical success factor of any implementation, which is human beings.
Yes.
At the end of the day, no matter how good or bad your ERP is, if you fail your change management strategy, with all the good intention, with all the good investments, people have to be on board. Otherwise, you're doomed for failure.
Yeah, the P element is very important. And you mentioned phase-by-phase approach, which is very critical. If you fail to have that kind of an approach and jump into the conclusion, that's going to end up in disaster. What about the key stakeholders buy-in? I mean, this is one of the factors where everybody on the board, especially right from the C-suite level till the implementation stakeholders, right from those users, the master users, how to get the buy-in from all the stakeholders?
This is where you have to put on your salesman hat, because the ERP implementation has to be taken as a project into itself, and the project, as you say very well, Jason, a project has many different stakeholders, and it boils down to the what they call the WIFM. What's in it for me? Stakeholders have to find something to cheer for and something to benefit on that ERP. And you know what? The stakeholders, they are come across the board, internal, external, the financial, the human resources, you name it. But everyone has to find something for it for themselves to be on board. Again, brings me back to the change management challenge. You really have to succeed. So for me, as if I'm bringing a new WMS, well, the WMS, I'm trying to pitch it to people who have been using some other technology, some other method. It can be manual, it can be the old-fashioned Excel, It can be, some legacy system. They have been using it for years and years and years, and try to convince them to um, forget about the old way of doing things and move along to this new WMS takes some convincing. And um, that convincing actually can be done with again, with your sales pitch. Nothing beats a live demo trial period. Give people to see this is what, well, having people do their daily work in an hour or in a few minutes sometimes is a game changer. Right now, ERPs, as we said, are moving to the cloud, but they are also being enriched by AI, technologies, IoT. Now, imagine an ERP, and there's something working on the Atracio side, an ERP with AI agents. Imagine going in the morning and asking your ERP, what my best, what product should I order today? And the ERP will answer back to you. Now, this is something that sounds like science fiction, but it's not. This is what the AI agents now are helping to do. IoT, the Internet of Things, are another thing which has been, making, the ERP, and more specifically the WMS or the asset management module, much, much more powerful. Imagine if you are able now to do your inventory, your cycle count, which would usually take hours and days and many, many labor. You can do it now in few minutes. And this is something we've seen with our own eyes, doing inventories of, warehouses or of office buildings in, was it 1/10 or 1/100th of the time, because we are using RFID, the radio frequency identification tags, which is, no. So this kind of points can help you sell this to the end users. As for, the investors, the guy with the bucks, I think the ROI speaks for itself. I think this is something that has been proven over and over again. That the ROI is easily, is something you can see on, on year one by implementing ERP. And oftentimes, there's always this challenge. Do we have to adapt to the ERP, or does the ERP have to adapt to us? And oftentimes, the ERP phases is a good time to, to question yourself and question your business, business processes before actually trying to go on board your implementation.
It's great to implement an ERP, but then you have to be, it has to be a custom fit for your company. It has to be a bigger decision from management to say, yes, we need to implement it. And when those things come about, then a change is obviously adopted and implemented.
I love the part when Bashir mentioned AI agents, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it when I would go one fine morning and just log in my ERP, and I will ask just one question, what products I
Yeah.
need to sell today, or what products I need to reorder. The system will
Yeah.
do all the analysis, and you name all the quantum computing which is going on in the back end, which is helping that data to be generated. If an ERP, I don't know if much of the ERPs are doing that part, but if any ERP is doing that, that would be the game changer. Bashir, one important and key question here is that data, while collecting the data in the initial stages, it's a very big task to ask all your stakeholders to contribute to the data collection. How
Yes.
do you manage that? That is one part of the question. The second is the data integration part. I would love to have Jason's opinion also on the integration part as well, because you might have cases to share with us also. But I would like to ask
Sure.
on these two elements.
Yeah, sure. Again, I think one of the great applications of ERP is the fact that they allow you to keep your data organized, and to keep your data accessible. And by being accessible, it's not only you can access it, but you can get the juice out of it. Sometimes you have. I remember back in my early days when I was 25, just like Jason with his SAP story.
You look
I remember,
25 anyway.
yes, we were using Excel, like, we were heavy users of Excel. And I remember this one boss, he used to tell, don't get too much into Excel. This is what we call, the analysis paralysis, problem. You get so much consumed by using Excel that you get paralyzed. You sometimes even lose focus of what you're trying to accomplish. And this is why, you know, we spoke about the AI agents, IoT. Now, now all ERPs now they have some BI elements into them. So with business intelligence, the fact that you can actually now be able to cut, and see through the fog, because before, it was a question of the difficulty to collect data, and it was manual, paper based. Now with the mobile applications that the ERPs, for instance, Atracio come with an integrated mobile application that you can use for everything that you do for your business, from the CRM, POS, the WMS, asset management, you name it. So this has made the collection of data much easier and much more accurate. So I think that now the challenge is not on how to collect the data.
Yeah.
The challenge is how to analyze the data and make use of the data. The AI agents can help. BI, tools are there as well. Now, but to go back to your question, Jason, the migration, because customers, they would have a big, big chunk of data collected through their existing processes, and so there are ways of making, ERPs, imports, and you can inject the data different ways. The easiest way is the good old Excel. Excel is oftentimes used as that first step to get the data, clean it up, and then inject it into your ERP. So I think the phase we are right now with the cloud, like the SaaS model, software as a service, being now almost a default. Now also we see all the big names, the SAPs, Microsoft, the Oracle, they all now are moving to the cloud because they have no other option. We take it for granted that my data should be accessible wherever I am.
Yeah, Jason, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, so we can give you a very nice example of a very nice customer we had in Saudi who was using 335 trucks for their company with 12,000 deliveries. And in the process of almost ordering another 50 trucks, in their words. So they came to us with this problem, telling us, listen, 12,000 deliveries per day. We have 335 trucks. We've got a driver and 2 people. We need your help to solve this problem, to make it more, seamless. Gave it to us, left it with us for 2-3 weeks. We ran it through our systems. Their data that they gave us, actually, which was a lot, we had to clean up a lot of their data because the addresses, what they had in the place, and I'm telling you, this is a multinational water distribution company. And when we ran it through our system, we came back to them in 3 weeks and told them, listen, you don't need to buy new trucks. In fact, you just need 195 trucks. So there's a saving of 140 trucks, and you can still do the same amount of deliveries of 12,000 of them every day. And the guy's first reaction to us was, I'm going to lose a job because we were looking at buying more trucks. You're telling us to keep 140 trucks. Each truck has almost 3 people. That's about 400 plus people. They are going to lose jobs. We said, no, you can use them in another place, right? You don't need to keep them only in Riyadh. I mean, you have other locations. So what we did was we ran that data through our system. We optimized routes for the truck drivers. We also optimized the storage in the trucks. Where some of those trucks were running at 70%, 80%. We made sure they all ran up to an excess of 95%. So that kind of thing would never be able to be done by human hands. It was all running it through the system to make sure that we got proof driven solutions for this company. So that is something, when you use it to the maximum effect, see, there has to be a change within the audiences, within the company. They cannot just sit down and say, okay, they'll go back to Excel, because then they're going to do the same thing. But if they use this service, then they'll be saving so much.
Yeah. And I think the key question here is, do you want to have a consultant doing this, or would you leave this to the company itself to find a solution, or the product itself to come in and pitch it? So I think what's Atracio's strategy? Is it like a face-by-face approach, as Bashir mentioned? Is it approaching the company and doing the consulting gap analysis first and then into the execution? Or is it like just providing this product and then wait for the results to come in?
I think this is a great question here, definitely, Jason. This is, I think, and this is where you can actually see the difference between the different ERPs on the market. Because what we try to do with the Atracio is that we're not trying to sell the software. We're not trying to sell the platform. We're trying to sell the solution. And this we can do actually by the caliber and the combined experiences of the Atracio team. So when we go to a customer, this is something that happens to us over and over again. Customers will be, for instance, excited about RFID. They will call us. You know what? We need an RFID solution. We heard about your experience, and please help us with RFID. And guess what? Once we do the analysis of their situation, we'd say, you know what? You don't need RFID. You are not in a position to benefit from RFID. You are much better off with barcodes or QRs, whatever, and that will help your situation in a better way with much less cost. Meaning that instead of question that so you're not trying to force your solution to the customer. It's you have to understand the each customer's specific needs and then customize your offer. And this brings me to another point, if I may, Jason, here, that one great thing about this the new ERP era we live in, given the cloud access and given the technologies that they are being using, is that now you can have almost a customized offer. You can pick and choose, which was not possible in the past. For instance, at Atracio, we have a range of modules going from POS, procurement, sales. We also have the supply chain focus. Now, with many customers, when they have their SAPs, the Oracles, and the Dynamics, which they are using across, and those are big multinationals. So the question is, how can we make the strength and the power of our WMS and the flexibility of our WMS to complement their existing ERPs, which is fine, so you can actually keep one master ERP and go and pick that WMS or asset management module and to plug it in to, now we have those, APIs, web services allow you to have this live connection between different ERPs. This is not something that was possible in the past.
Yeah. We are coming to the close of the session, but one of the most key question which I want to ask you is on the sustainability element. Now, we are heading towards carbon reduction strategies. We have our own targets. We have our local targets, company targets, worldwide targets, countries targets. We have to meet different deadlines. Now, if ERP can give some kind of carbon reporting data or kind of carbon emission data, it would be great, because you need to understand your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emission and the different emission out of your processes, because the ERP runs through the heart of the organization. This question is to Bashir, and maybe Jason can answer as well. Have you encountered strategies on, or maybe have you thought of building up such a model in your existing ERP where sustainability reports can be generated?
Yeah, sure. Part of our suite of modules, or we have a an FMS, a fleet management system. So this allows you to see every mile driven by your vehicle and what kind of fuel consumption it has. What's the total consumption by trip for the month per driver? You can see even the driver's behavior. All of these elements allow you now to have a very concise, to have the CO2 footprint of each trip. Now, imagine if you have this combined on a TMS vision, the transportation management system, because again, under one roof, you have the WMS, you have the FMS, fleet management, and you have the TMS. This allows you now to have a clear, we could also have the production module, which is part of our suite of modules. Now with production, you have the inbound, the production process, the outbound, the storage, the logistics, transportation, and then the final delivery. So you are basically have this end-to-end view of your product moving across the supply chain. And again, maybe this has always been possible in the past, but with a lot of investment and a lot of time, a lot of labor, a lot of error. Imagine if you have to go and compute that footprint for each one of those segments independently, using some manual processes. I don't think you can expect good quality data. Now, with the combined and mutualized data under one ERP roof, it's much, much easier for you to go and ask to compute that CO2 footprint from the raw material stage all the way to the customer site.
That's pretty interesting. Before winding up the podcast today, Jason, your final thoughts, and then we'll go to Bashir as well.
Okay, sure. So just to tell you to your previous question, actually, Jason, we've actually signed a deal now with a company with regards to partners and consultants, you see, because that was a question that you very nicely asked us. We have partners in the region now that we've just started expanding. We've just signed up with a consultant in Netherlands who's actually got 235 consultants working with the BCGs, with your McKinseys, with James Tompkins. And, there's 235 consultants, that's all I know. And they are going to be working with us closely now, So we just signed that a few weeks back. So we are working with partners as well as with regards to consultants, that is just to let you know. So yeah, you see the beauty with our WMS in terms of our inventory control, you see, you can come in the morning and realize, okay, what you need to order because you've got everything on your system. You know your stockpiles, you know what your inventory is, you know what you need to order. So thereby, there's no surplus. You do not order extra, and there is least FIFO, LIFO, FIFO. You do not order extra. So that is a huge sustainable project with so many retail chains are actually struggling right now. Because we're just dealing not only retail, we're looking at so many other industries that are still struggling with how to manage their inventories. You see, your biggest retail chains are still, many of them, I'm not talking about the super big ones, but the second tier and third tier are still running on Excel, sadly. So they're doing manual counting. You see, you'll go to the grocery store and realize that they are shut for the day because they're doing their inventory.
Spot on.
Yes, so with the solution that we have, we're not really looking at, FMCG or hospitals. We're really looking at giving them a solution that will assist them in the long run. Not only the DNA for us is sustainability anyway, you see. So we are an executive supply chain platform that is helping them primarily keeping in mind the 2030 Geneva Convention. All right?
Perfect. Bashir, your closing remarks before we wind up today's session.
I just want to thank you for the time, and it's always exciting to talk about ERPs and the potential benefit it can bring to any organization, small, medium, or big. And in the past, only the big guys were thinking of having this ERP, but now it has been democratized. So these are exciting times for all of us.
The key question to you, Bashir, how can people connect with you?
in this time and age, they can come to we have the website atracio.com, and I'm on LinkedIn, and otherwise you can hook up somewhere in Casablanca, Dubai, or somewhere in North America. So
And you're available in the MENA, in the Europe and the US, right?
yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Although we have not touched base on the product element, that is Atracio's major product elements, we would do that in the coming few days. We would go
Okay.
in detail, what's the product looking like, the user interface, the user friendliness, the compatibility standards, and all those things which a person can actually look forward before buying in. So on that note,
Okay.
let's wind up today's podcast, and have a great day, Jason and Basha.